My name is Tony Cameron, and I'm with TLDR Accounting. We offer strategic tax and accounting services to small business owners, therapists, and non-for-profits. Today's topic is going to be an IRS notice and what do you do if you get one in your mailbox. Now, you might be thinking, mailbox. You're only going to receive a real IRS notice via the U.S. Postal Service. So if you get something via email, if you get something over the phone, a phone call, ignore it. It is not real. The only way they contact you is through U.S. mail. You receive a letter. It's in a very specific type of format. And one of the things that you need to be super careful of is, even if you do receive a notice, is it a real notice? Is it a phishing notice? Is it fraud? Is it someone trying to get personal information from you? And it's one of the things we've seen as an uptick in the prior years. And going around in the CPA community, we pass around letters we've seen which are not from the IRS. They're from scammers who are trying to get personal information from folks. And so our first tip is, as long as it's through the mail, and you're not getting a phone call, they should not be calling you on the phone. There's no way to verify that you are you via phone unless they start asking you some TransUnion questions for your identity. And they shouldn't really be doing that over the phone anyway, is contact an accountant. And the big reason for that is to make sure it's actually from the IRS. Now you can call the IRS. Now I wouldn't call the number on the letter unless you're sure it's the IRS. Otherwise, you can go to irs.gov, contact us, and go to their phone line for individuals, not for businesses, for individuals. And from that, you could verify it's an actual IRS letter, or go to an accountant. We know what letters should look like. We'll review the letter. We'll see what they're asking for, or if they're just stating that a refund might have been applied to a prior year. Or, one of the crypto letters, did you report your cryptocurrency correctly? A big one recently has been RSUs. And did you report all of your stock compensation on your tax return correctly? We see that one a lot. And that one, we're always like, no, bring it to us, because while the IRS is correct that you might not have reported it correctly, most of the time, the amount in additional taxes they are saying they're owed is incorrect. So we can respond to the IRS notice and be like, nope, this is how it should have been on. It wasn't on. Client didn't have the correct information, but they don't owe $6,000. They owe $500. So step one, contact a CPA or an EA. An EA is an enrolled agent, and they are qualified to represent you in front of the IRS. Step two is to pull the information for the tax return that the IRS is talking about. So I'll use the RSU example. Say it's 2017. Make sure you have a copy of the tax return on hand, that you have the supporting documentation for it. And then if they're saying that you're missing something, maybe you're missing information from a Morgan Stanley account, you log into Morgan Stanley and you make sure you have that information ready to go. Because step three, once you do contact an accountant or an EA, they're going to ask for all that information to see what was reported on your tax return, what could be missing on your tax return, and the best way to move forward. Most of the time, we can respond directly to the notice, and we don't need to amend your tax return, because just responding to the notice with the correct information, they can wrap it all up at the IRS. Sometimes it does require us to amend your tax return, which is a little bit more complicated, but it's one of the things that CPA or an EA should be able to take care of, no problem. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is timing. A lot of times there's a date on there that you need to respond by, and we don't want to miss that date. So when someone contacts us for an IRS notice appointment, one of the things to keep in mind is, when do you actually need to have a response to the IRS? So a lot of times someone will email us, they'll be like, we got this letter, they'll make an appointment with us. We'll respond back with, what's the date on the letter? Because we don't want to be late in getting back to the IRS. You want to talk to the IRS as soon as possible. Or if that's not possible, we can get a hold of the IRS and ask for more time. because depending on what's in the letter, we might need more time. We've gotten letters about some very in-depth business topics where we're like, oh, we got to dig into your expenses here, or their 1099 say they're saying a 1099 miscellaneous wasn't reported. And so it might take us longer to dig into the information that was reported on your return, especially if we did not prepare it. If we prepared it, it's much easier for us to deal with IRS notices, anything like that. We offer an IRS monitoring service. So what we do is we ask for you to sign some documents. We then can watch your IRS account so we know before a notice gets sent to you, along with have there been any changes? Were there additional tax documents that came in that didn't make it to us? Because sometimes that happens. People, might not know that they had a 1099 coming from this account, or they might have thought they closed a brokerage account, but they still have it. And that gives us a heads up so we can deal with it before it gets sent to a notice. So that's kind of awesome because we're predicting the future. We know before the IRS sends you a notice, and we can fix it before they send it, which means no fines and penalties. We just get everything fixed before they spend the time going after it. And that's always the best way to deal with it. So the big thing, like I said, is number one, contact a CPA or an EA if you're not going to deal with it yourself, and to verify it is a legit notice from the IRS. And as I stated, because it's been happening a lot, which is why I keep repeating this, it should not be a phone call. The IRS will not call you, okay? They also will not email you. They have to send you a letter, an actual letter, snail mail all the way. So do not get fooled by someone calling you on your cell phone being like, you owe the IRS $10,000. Here's what you need to do to get away with it. The same thing goes not just for the IRS, but the Social Security Administration. If you get anything from them, it needs to be in letter form, okay? Dead tree form, it's how you can actually prove it's from the IRS or the government. They like their paper. And then the other thing is, if it provides a phone number on the letter, go to Google, go to the irs.gov site, go to their contact us. There's a 1040 individual tax line you can call to make sure it's a legit letter. Obviously, if you go to an accountant, they'll take care of all of that for you. But I know folks, they're more likely to just deal with it. The other big item is in that letter, if it is a valid letter, there's going to be a spot to sign and to say you accept these changes and you will pay the taxes owed. Do not sign it. Not until you talk to a professional or you're willing to live with whatever the letter says. Because once you sign it, we can't retract that, even if the IRS is wrong. It can be an instantaneous panic moment. You got a letter from the IRS. Oh dear God, what's going to happen? When in turn, it actually might be something much smaller. And by working with a professional, you can get it cleared off your plate quicker. It turns out it might not be correct. You might not owe that big scary number that the IRS says. It's probably much smaller, because you got to remember, the IRS is not always on your side. They are on the government side. And so their viewpoint is different when they send you a notice. Hopefully you all found this helpful. If you have any questions that you would love to see us do in one of these videos, send it on over, either via a comment or email, or however you want to get it over to us. Otherwise, I hope y'all have a fantastic afternoon.